Um, Thanks for joining us today. This is super fun. I'm glad you could join us. I am Sarah George, and I'm with Renewing the Countryside, and I'm a farmer over here in Pepin, Wisconsin, as well as the market manager for the Wabasha Farmers Market and the Red Wing Farmers Market at this point, because we just found out yesterday that the Red Wing Farmers Market manager has given notice. So we're going to be filling some big shoes in both markets this year. So that's who I am. And I'm also a food safety trainer. So I'm a FSMA trainer for farmers. So I do food safety training on farm food safety when I'm working with farmers, when they're working to sell to, I guess, anybody out in the public schools, hospitals, restaurants, as well as individuals in the community and at farmers markets. I'm going to hand the baton over to Brett, and he's going to do a couple introductions. Go from there.
All right. Yeah, my name is Brett Olson. I work with Sarah at Renewing the Countryside. I'm one of the co-founders, and so I don't know if you I've worked at an organization with so many different programs, but we did my allocation for this next month, and I don't think I had one program that was over 10% of my time. And so I get pulled in a lot of different directions related to farm to school. I also do some training on food regulations and licensing. And I did that through a program called Blazing Trails with the University of Minnesota. And that was pretty cool. I live here in Zumbro Falls, and my kids, well, my daughter graduated from Lake City, and my son is a junior. So that's that. And you forgot to tell everybody, Sarah, what your favorite school meal was.
I did. So back when I was in school, we didn't do introductions. Back when I was in school, I liked the pizzas, those really ridiculous square rectangle pizzas, I guess. Guilty. Was my favorite school meal. When we're doing some introductions, we're going to go around and we're going to ask everybody your name and what school you're associated with. We're also going to be asking what role you play at that school and your favorite school meal, just to have a little icebreaker so we can get to know you a little better. So start thinking about what that is. Some of you are not associated directly with schools, but you can say what your role is in partaking on the call. So I appreciate it. Brent?
Yeah, so my favorite school meal, I just can't imagine would be allowed today, but was those little Italian dunkers, like a piece of deep fried cheese. Anyway, I don't know. I didn't think there was deep fried cheese in that little triangle of the food that you can eat or whatever. But so that's that. I'm going to go around and name some people, and then that way you can don't have to figure out who goes next. I'm going to start with Nikki.
Okay, so my question is, what school am I associated with? So that'd be Red Wing Public Schools. Also, I am current school board member for Red Wing Public Schools. And I think my favorite back then, I guess I didn't even really think, I always thought like institutionalized food was disgusting. Hospitals, schools, whatnot. But I do remember a chicken sandwich, so I'll go with that, I think. And did I answer all the questions? Or?
Yep, that's great.
Okay.
Eric, why don't you go next?
Am I unmuted? Good. Okay, and I got my camera up and running, so great Zoom so far. So I'm Eric Inger. I'm the superintendent at Lake City Public Schools. My role, I guess I've enjoyed working with Brett and Sarah on different projects. So of course I oversee everything, but I do take a special interest in just trying to get more local, fresh foods to our students. So, and then unlike Nikki, I love institutional food, any food for that matter. But my favorite meal by far would be the old mashed potatoes, kind of the pre-Thanksgiving meal, but they did serve it periodically throughout the year with those chicken and gravy and just corn. You even as a kid, you almost needed a nap after eating that meal. So that was my meal.
Awesome.
Mm.
Brendan.
My name is Brett Lexold. I live in Mazeppa, but I am the food service director for Red Wing Public Schools, and I oversee both the food service department and concessions as well. I would have to say my favorite meal right now at the high school, they make so many, but I do like the orange chicken bowl that we're offering up there. That's been a pretty good one. So
I've heard about this. I need to come and see this one. I've heard that at many of these calls. So
Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Boris, and I am the licensed school nurse Zebroda Mazeppa district. And I never really liked school lunch either. But if I had to pick something, it would maybe be like a taco. I don't know. I grew up on a dairy farm, so none of it really tasted like my taco meat. But and now, like, my kids are in our district, and one of their favorites is the walking tacos that we serve now. So that's a favorite. So
Tina.
So yeah, I'm Tina Mullen, the Wabasha County Statewide Health Improvement Partnership Coordinator, otherwise known as SHIP. And I serve all of the Wabasha County schools in any way they're willing to work with me around healthy eating, physical activity, tobacco-free environments, and now well-being. Sarah is on our community leadership team, so we communicate quite frequently on all types of things. And I guess I ate mostly cold lunches. I was a runner and I was pretty strict with what I would eat. Fruits and vegetables and whole grains, and I also had dairy. So, but then one of my big splurges was, you're not gonna like this, a big cookie. So what I have, big cookies, you know.
That's great. Let's see. Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Kropp. I am at Wabasha Kellogg Schools. I'm the food service director there. Tina, we do still have some cookies at our school, but they're not that big anymore. I think my favorite meal now is probably our stromboli. Yeah, that was a good one that my ladies make. So
That sounds great. Jill, I hear you're in your car, but.
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, I'm Jill. I am the food service director for Zebroda, Mazeppa, and Lake City schools. And I didn't eat school lunch when I was growing up, but now being in schools, I have tried quite a few things. And my favorite item is actually a breakfast meal, and it's the strawberry stuffed French toast in the morning.
Wow, that sounds good.
wow.
Like going to a bed and breakfast. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to be served at a school. When I tell people that, they're like, that's at a school? I'm like, yep, it's really good too. So if you ever get that way, you have to try it when it's on the menu.
Right. Mike.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Pagel. I'm the principal at Sunnyside Elementary in Red Wing. Favorite, I was also, Sarah, a big fan of the square pizza. But I will say one better than that was on rare occasion, we would get the pizza boats that were kind of built on like the Italian bread. So that was like pizza on steroids. So that was probably my favorite as a kid.
Love it. Aaron.
There we go. Hi, I'm Erin Augustine and I work with Red Wing Community Education. I'm the Youth and Family Program Coordinator and also the Park Naturalist Program Coordinator as well. And my favorite meal when I was in high school here in Red Wing was the chicken teriyaki bowl. So that is a good one if anyone wants to bring that one back.
Wow.
I think Axel has said that that's his favorite at Lake City. So, and Megan, you're the last one.
I'm Megan Russian. I'm the Livewell Goodhue County coordinator, or the SHIP coordinator for Goodhue County. And my favorite meal was hands down the chili bread bowl that came with about a pound of cheese on top of it. So I don't know if that's still there, Brent, but I really loved it.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't know how many of these really have survived, but that's some of them do have a little bit of questionable nutrition value, and where that sausage crumble actually came from on those square pizzas, that was another mystery to me too. So, but I love them all. In fact, some of these sounded great, except Tina's, which sounds just horrible, just eating vegetables and whole grains. But I commend you. That's very good. I'm just picking on you. So, all right, we're going to have lots of time to, well, not a ton of time, but in the future, we'll have more time to do some chatting. And a couple of you have seen the PowerPoint that Sarah is going to run through again, but a couple of you haven't. And it really does tee up sort of a project that we're working on to ease the availability of local foods for you. And so I think it's worth going through and stopping a couple times to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're hearing the same things. And then we can take a deeper dive in the future into subject areas to make sure that we bring in experts that can flesh out this farm to school concept a little more. And we'll have a poll at the end to kind of run that. Here's another quick icebreaker. How many of you grew up on a farm? You can hit your little reactions button down there or raise your hand. Somewhat. And I know Tiffany, right? So
Yeah.
There's 4 of you that are directly grown up on farms. How many are 5? That's 5.
Yeah.
How many are one generation from being a farmer yourself? That.
Well, I'm a farmer, so I'm not one generation away, but
Well, I mean, who?
yep.
Yeah. And then anybody that's 2 generations? That's it. And then how many people just now live in the middle of rocks and cows and never had been on a farm in their whole life? A couple.
Sort of.
All right.
I don't actually farm, but we're in the country.
Yeah,
We're farm adjacent.
Farm adjacent, farm curious. Yeah, I live on a retired dairy farm, and it's going to stay a retired dairy farm because, man, I don't have that kind of energy. Sarah, do you want to load your screen share for the?
Love to. Cheater. There we go. Slideshow. For those of you that have seen this, we'll try and do it as quickly as possible because I know there's a couple of you that have seen this already. So thank you for going through this. We'll do this. This will take about 15 to 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have some more conversation.
Again, I just wanted to point out that we work for Renewing the Countryside, and you can kind of see the general mission statement for what we're working on. We started off telling the stories of rural innovators, and in a published book called Renewing the Countryside. And quickly other states were lining up to say, hey, we have interesting rural renewal going on here. Can you help us do a book like that? And that was great. And then we started realizing that we could share with people some of those strategies to increase the number of those folks that are championing rural initiatives. Currently, a couple of the program areas we have are Soil Sisters. Farmland Access is a big part of what I do, beginning farmers, getting them onto the land, farm to school and farm to early care, and slow money. There's a ton of them. If you can see, there's 10 of them there. So I'm easily at my 100% this year. So that's good. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to kind of run through the how and what the Farmers Market Food Hub is.
Sure. So I have my video off. Sorry, guys. That's just so I can have, because I have rural internet out here in the country. So one of our projects that we do through Renewing the Countryside is our Farmers Market Food Hub. And you might be asking yourself what a food hub is. So I am just going to go back and show you kind of what the process was and what we did. So in the beginning, I was a market manager and a vendor at a farmer's market. And I saw all the vendors with all this beautiful produce. And we had customers that were coming every week. But actually, at the end of the day, I saw vendors taking their arm across their table with all that produce that was just for sale and scooping it into a 5-gallon pail to bring home and feed to their pigs. Mind you, it's great. They were using that produce and feeding it to the pigs. But I was thinking, like, I started blaming myself. What are we doing wrong? With local food growing in popularity and healthcare facilities and schools looking for ways to gain access to it, why is all this gorgeous produce going to the pigs? What can we do to change that? So I met with Jan at Renewing the Countryside and Jane with the Minnesota Sustainable Agriculture, and then Kathy Zeman with the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. Our goal was to create a food hub right there at the farmers market, a non-brick and mortar food hub, where we could aggregate or combine products from multiple farms to sell to schools, hospitals, and restaurants and make access to local foods easier. Not only did we do that, but we worked side by side. We created fact sheets to show how legal it was. And then we worked side by side with other organizations like the Local Food Advisory Committee, the University of Minnesota Food Safety Team, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Health, knowing full well that while we had the product in our hand, we needed to work with MDA. But as soon as we step into your facility, you're going to have to deal with MDH. So we wanted to be proactive in how we were working with this to make it easier. Wabasha Farmers Market was with the help of SHIP, thank you very much, was the first farmers market in the state of Minnesota to receive what's called a wholesale food handler's license, where we could legally aggregate produce at a farmers market in 2017. From there, Renewing the Countryside applied for a specialty crop block grant where we could pilot the food hub at farmers markets. See, our goal wasn't just to see if we could get Wabasha licensed, it was actually to see if we could replicate this at other markets across the state. Here's the other markets that have this right now. Up north, we have Aiken, Cook, and Grand Rapids, and down in the south, Red Wing, Rochester, and Wabasha. But we also have it in Richfield, over in that Richfield area. So we wanted to test the benefits of this. So did it help our farmers? How could we increase those market channels and increase those sales for our farmers and gain access to wholesale buyers? But when we started working with like the University of Minnesota Food Safety Team, our farmers were able to get GAPS trained, which is good agricultural practices. So it's food safety training. We encouraged water tests. They had no idea. Some of them didn't even know that water testing was something you should do. Writing up food safety plans. We assisted them and worked side by side, writing up food safety plans with our farmers and gave them a whole new experience. We also had direct benefits for our farmers markets. So they were understanding, we increased their vendors. Vendors wanted to engage in markets that had this program going because it offered them more opportunity for additional sales. Plus it allowed them to build relations with businesses in the community. And then additionally, benefits for the buyers, our financial institution, our institutional buyers were able to go online and place orders, very similar to Bix and Cisco. So it streamlined the order process and made this a one-stop shop for our individuals that were making those purchases. So here is where we're talking about this benefit for buyers. And I just kind of want to stop and take a tiny pause and find out, like, you saw some of these benefits. Can you think of any additional benefits that could happen if we were to do a food hub at a farmer's market? Can anybody think of any additional benefits that could happen? Maybe that we didn't identify. And you can put it in the chat if you don't want to unmute. That's fine.
I know that, Sarah, I'll jump in because I've done a number of these trainings across the state now, not with this particular project. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was that schools and the school affiliate, parent teacher organizations and farmers alike all felt like it created cohesiveness and like community. And that it really felt like it was, it helped kind of bind the community together a little bit, which I thought was an interesting take.
I think, Brett, to piggyback off that, I had it and I lost it. Personal buy-in with your local communities. And so like when I look at a community like Red Wing and looking at all the possibilities that are local that we may not know about, like as an example, in connecting with Nikki here this year, I discovered that we actually have our Native Americans locally here in Red Wing are making maple syrup. And I had no idea that right there that they have this kind of process going. So I already kind of foresee a great partnership that's kind of unfolding, but I think it just creates a better buy-in to the program. And I've heard some school districts that have used one concept that I'd really like to look at is actually purchasing cows from local farmers and then bringing them into the menu, because I think there's a twofold piece there. How cool is that for the student, or for the farmers that you're highlighting, and then the kids are right there in the school. So I think that personal buy-in is huge, especially when you look at communities, just success of a community.
Yeah, there's a real pride in that. And down in Dover, there's this school food service director is buying like that. And those kids, it's their cow and they know it. And they walk around with, about 4 inches off the ground all day because they know it's going to be their hamburger. And so that's, again, that community I think is really, really slick.
We just served some of those burgers at our school today from the, Golden, I think it's Golden Rust. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was waiting. I thought you'd unmute. I'm glad to see that you did. Thanks, Christy. It does make an impact.
Talking about sugar camp, my uncle Art got that up and running, our food sovereignty. That was see, our bison farm is our first food sovereignty, and then it was maple camp, and then we also our water quality specialist has advocated for for clean rivers, so we can have our wild rice grow back on Prairie Island again, because wild rice is our traditional diet. And then from there we have just kind of built our food sovereignty through our wild foraging and creating our own preserves and teaching classes. That's actually my job. My day job is I work for the Land and Environment Department on Prairie Island, and connecting people with the land and our traditional foods, our cultural appropriate foods, and our plant medicines. So yeah, just a little background on that, because I heard the maple camp being mentioned. So we're pretty far in our food sovereignty, got our own greenhouse going, and so that's just a little bit background information on Per Allen.
Love it. Well, I think we should dive back in to the Parsnip project. It really actually dovetails really nice with that. Nikki, we'll be in touch on that. So
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Well, that brings us to the current year. So 2021, we were awarded a pilot. It's called a Parsnip pilot, working with schools. So Renewing the Countryside is doing this Parsnip, and everybody loves acronyms. So this is a big one. Pilot to accelerate regional support for nutrition at institutions from producers. That's a mouthful. Basically, they're putting some regional coordinators in the area in Goodhue and Wabasha County to see if we can connect farmers with local institutions and if that has advantages. Farm to School is incredibly amazing, and there's so many benefits to connecting schools to farmers to each other. So let's talk a little briefly about what Farm to School is. The National Farm to School Network defines it as 3 core elements. So it's obviously, we all understand the procurement, like making those purchases, but it also includes education and school gardens, and those are really big pieces. For procurement is where those local foods are purchased. They're promoted and they're served as meals or snacks, maybe even taste tests. Hey, there's Jill on the screen. Jill, since you're on your phone. Here, school gardens is where children in schools can engage in hands-on learning through gardening. And then, of course, the education piece can't be overlooked. So children and students participating in educational activities related to agriculture, food, health, or nutrition is a really important piece. Farm to School benefits everyone in the community: schools, teachers, administrators, parents, farmers. And it provides opportunities to build family and community engagement. It looks different in every community. But there's definitely ways that we can incorporate Farm to School into your cafeteria, your classroom, and in throughout your community. It sounds great, right? Why isn't it happening everywhere? Brett and I were curious. With Renewing the Countryside, we started asking questions like, who does your ordering? How often do you order? What days of the week do you like to place your orders? What days do you prefer your deliveries? And finally, the biggest bad boy, what's your biggest obstacle for sourcing local? You guys, many of you are in that school kitchen. So I bet you can think of what some of those obstacles are that we heard. You know it, you're in the school kitchen and you have to make enough, get enough orders. You need to work with 10 different farmers to get enough products. You have for your planned meal. No one has spinach this week and you have 6 different farmers making deliveries. John likes text, Jane likes email, and Joe likes it when you call him. You have to stop everything you're doing in that school kitchen every time a farmer arrives because the schools are locked up during the school hours, and every farmer is going to hand you a unique invoice. How much time do you have to support those dedicated to supporting those local farmers? Plus, there's confusion of what's not. Note that product of the farm is legal and an approved source for purchasing for schools, institutions, and individuals in the community. Then was the reality of farmer obstacles. We met with farmers at farmers markets and throughout the community and identified their obstacles. They're incredible in the fields. They have the ability to grow, tend, and harvest a diverse set of crops in our short Minnesota summers, but often they don't have time to leaving the farm to develop those relationships with buyers, to deliver products, or to set up at 3 or 4 different markets a week. They know farmers markets, but they're not sure how to do wholesale accounts. Pricing is a really big question. Concerns about quantities, and then simply establishing relationships makes them nervous. Pack standards are something that they've never even thought about. And with so many questions, it's easier to simply back away. Here, we heard them and we listened, but we just didn't stop there because this is so important to us. We sat together with a muddling session. Several of you on the call were a part of this muddling. Eric and Christy were in here with Brett and I. We came together. There's 2 farmers, 2 a food service director, a principal, a superintendent here, 3 different schools coming together to talk through these obstacles. We asked each of the schools if they could just fill out this product checklist. You guys were engaged in this. Like, what is it that you'd like to place an order for? If you could choose anything that we grow locally, what would it be? But we also asked our farmers to fill this out. And there was a lot of things that we learned. We learned what was available locally. Farmers learned what they could grow more of, but more importantly, we had a better understanding of each other's challenges. Farmers have a hard time looking out in their field and seeing the tomatoes. I mean, I can see lots of tomatoes growing in the field, but knowing when they're going to be ripe is really complicated. And so, am I going to have 20 pounds this week? I just got a call. How much rhubarb do you have up in your field? Well, how do you look at rhubarb without cutting it? But know that that rhubarb would still be good next week if I didn't cut it all. So I can cut it all and weigh it. But then what does that leave me for next week? Schools, you guys in the kitchen, I mean, if timing is everything. And so when having those meals ready for the children, if coring, washing, and chopping the lettuce took too much time, you wouldn't have a meal ready for the kids to serve. And you can't just look at them and say, sorry guys, hang tight, we're almost done. It's got to be ready. And then we went where no one wants to go, pricing. It's like the big elephant in the room. And we wanted to be fully transparent. So we actually took farmers market pricing. We took a couple schools pricing, actually added on some pricing from last year. We crossed items off that just didn't make sense. It was very clear when it didn't make sense, let's not do that item. But we also noticed that there was examples where it was more cost effective, even buying from the local farmers market than it was buying from your current providers. This gave us a great point for us to start at. Let's look at the things that come the same from Bix and Cisco that didn't get crossed off that pricing list and see if we can make a step in the right direction. Maybe not looking at every component of every meal. Instead, let's look at salad bars. Let's look at summer meal programs. Let's look at maybe offering a fruit and vegetable on the side instead of doing an entire meal. And Eric, got you here. Engaging more with food service directors, ship staff, local chefs, principals, board members, garden experts, just adding a network. That way we have a team. It's not landing on one individual's shoulders to make farm to school happen in that school. Our food service directors are doing a ton for us. Let's give them credit for what they do and support them in ways that they need that. This is Eric from St. Felix School in Wabasha. He jumped up to make a produce delivery when the food service director wasn't there yet. Why? Because he was involved from the start, because local foods matter. We started sharing a meal. Everybody likes talking over a meal, whether it's pizza or Italian dunkers, or I have to agree that the Thanksgiving meal at school is really good. You got me thinking on that one, good work. But everybody likes to talk over a meal. Bringing locally grown produce provides an opportunity to talk to children about their food. It gives them an experience outside of the norm. Like these cherry tomatoes, these heirloom cherry tomatoes are really a fun conversation starter. And this is where I'm going to talk briefly about something that's super cool. Like most of you have Facebook. So if you go to Local Line, I'm going to promote the Wabasha site on this one, but this is also the case. If you go to your Facebook page, Wabasha Farmers Market Facebook page, or Red Wing Farmers Market Facebook page, there's a shop now button right underneath that main window. That brings you right to our online sales platform. Here's kind of an idea of what that platform looks like. So you can see what products are going to be available. And it's very clear. We're very transparent. Here's the farmers that you're ordering that product from. So you can see exactly what you're going to get from who. Underneath, you're going to see the pounds and the quantity that's available. And you can place those orders right from our platform. You're going to see the cart on the right side of the screen. That shopping cart you can add to or adjust as you're going through it, and then do your checkout. You can choose if you want that picked up or delivered, and then your payment options are listed there. Most food service directors are not able to make payment right there on the spot. So you can invoice that. So pay later, credit card or cash or whatever. Invoicing is an option. So just click pay later and I'll know how to work with your school. That's totally okay. There are delivery. The delivery is available, but keeping in mind that delivery, there is a minimum purchase for free delivery that's out there. And then you can just choose the dates that you're going to be making those deliveries. You can always go underneath the check the shopping cart and see your order history and view those invoices that are in there at any point in time and print that out. And I'm going to run through one additional thing that can happen. So this is some of our markets have what's called a market share CSA box, and that's an aggregated weekly or biweekly box of produce that's either picked up or delivered to you from multiple farmers. This is something that's super cool that schools can do, not only for their staff, but they can offer it as a part of their health and wellness benefits in their schools. So typically a box is consists of normal staples like lettuce, I don't know, carrots, tomatoes, radishes, peppers, cherry tomatoes, and other standard offerings. But then we like to add one vegetable that's outside of the norm, like kohlrabi or okra, fennel or patty pan, just something new for the individual to try. And then one herb. It's a little trickier in local line, but this is what it looks like. So 16 or 8 biweekly boxes. You do have to choose a pickup location. And so this is where it gets tricky. Just choose the farmer's market and choose any date. It's going to ask you, we're smarter than local lines, so I'll know to adjust this for a season-long adventure. I want to encourage each of you to sign up to be added to a market near you just so that you can get that information. And I just want to share with you again where this is taking place. You all are in our area, so it's going to be either Red Wing or Wabasha. And then we do have farm to school resources, which I can share later. This was just to show you what is happening. And then I wanted to show you, this is what our online platform looks like right now. So this is the Wabasha one, and it just recently got a new facelift, I guess. It looks new. So now you can sort it by the farmer or by the producer or by products if you want to do produce only or meat only or specialty. But this is what it's going to look like when you log into the platform and see some of the things that are existing. It's actually really simple. And now if I was to add this to the store, the shopping cart is now in the upper corner up here. I think that's all from the platform. I do want to highlight these rainbow carrots. And Brett, do you want to talk now or should I stop? I'm going to stop share for a minute. I'm going to stop share for a minute and have some conversation before we talk carrots. So
yeah, you know, does everyone know what product of the farm is? Do you? So it's actually written in the Minnesota Constitution is that any food that was grown on owned or rented land by a farmer, so that farmer owns it, and they haven't added any off-farm ingredients to it, they need nothing to sell that to anybody. It's in the Constitution is they don't need a license or the gap training. A lot of ours do, but the Constitution says that's product of the farm and they can sell it. They can also process it. That means peeling, dicing, shredding, and bringing that to you in bags. That is still product of the farm, as long as, again, they didn't add anything to it, and it came from the land that they own or rent. So a lot of times there's confusion that you can't process the food. That has been cleared up by that LFAC that you saw earlier, the Local Food Advisory Council. We went to the Department of Ag and Department of Health and said, how did this, what we need clarification. And so that's the clear fact there. And so now I just want to open it up for any questions and conversation and where we can clarify and what else we've got.
I just have something to say about SHIP, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I know one school reached out to me recently, but if there are things that a school would need to purchase in order to implement farm to school, such as food storage or food processing. I know Wabasha Kellogg School District has taken advantage of some of that in the past. That it would be an allowable SHIP expense. We do have some SHIP funding. However, this grant cycle, which ends October 31st, we have spent all of our mini grant funds, and you'll have to go ahead and talk to me and prepare for grant submissions after November 1. While funding is available for SHIP.
And I will add to that, Goodhue County has not spent all of our funds. So if you're in Goodhue County, we do have funding still.
That's great.
Super glad
That
to
brings
hear
up
that.
a couple of things is that questions of grant funding and finding sources of additional funds for your schools might be something that would warrant a deeper dive from this group. And we could bring in people from MDA because they have funding as well. And so I have a poll here of some topic areas that we may want to look at. I'm going to launch the poll now. This can give you a chance to chime in on which of these, and you can pick, as many of, pick them all if you want. Things where, like, meet a local farmer, we could bring farmers to the conversation and find out, what they have to say, or even bring them to the schools and introduce them to the kids. Food safety, those people from the university who we were talking about, and Sarah herself, being a FSMA trainer, could come in and say, this is exactly what farmers are doing. Like, there's one tote that stays in the field. It doesn't come into the pack house. There's food safety for keeping things very safe. So if you want to hear about that, that's that. Procurement questions and logistics. When is our delivery supposed to come? How has that worked? How has it come in boxes, or does it come in pillowcases? What is the procurement questions? Classroom connections, farm to school. How do we integrate some of this farm to school stuff into curriculum or into the classroom? School gardens and greenhouses, how to manage those best. Sometimes a lot of those are going on in the summer, and hear from other schools that have been very successful in getting the students to come back during the summer to help out. So it really is formative and good for them that way. The Good Acre is a more traditional food hub up in the cities, and they offer culinary training, so we can do that. Creative solutions for school budgets. Surprised that isn't at 100%. But there are some schools that have really come up with some very creative solutions for that. Up in the cities, Doveyota, even Wabasha, and so good things to learn there. How can I help? This is a session on how to plug in yourself into your school's farm to school program, that building community, and how to maybe talk to your board members, because board members listen. So that's a great one. And then hear from other food service directors on baby steps. I think at the Lake City, when we had the chicken dinner, a superintendent stood up and was like, oh, I get it. I thought you meant we had to swap everything out. Well, no, it's not like that. So these are options for you, for us to continue this conversation going forward. And then, does your school have a summer lunch program? That's going to be important for us to grow this Parsnip project out a little bit. Do you have more, Sarah?
I was just going to say that one thing I do want to stress is that farm to school isn't just limited to that procurement piece. It's definitely to engaging to the students in the classrooms. It's engaging the students in encouraging farm tours. So farmers aren't in this to make millions. Let me promise you that. My farm is right out the window. And oh, you guys can't see it, you see the window, but if we were in it to make millions, we wouldn't all have multiple jobs. And so we're doing this because we're passionate about it, because we love what we do, because it matters. And so having kids on the farm is something that we'd love to engage in. Having the opportunity to be in the classroom is something that we would really appreciate taking the time doing. Working in your greenhouse to assist you in working with the classes. Pretend COVID's not here for just 30 seconds and think of ways that we can engage with farmers. So over the winter time, farmers are not in the fields because there's snow in the fields, and snow peas really don't mean they're grown in snow. And so that's when some of the food service directors need some of those subs in the lunchroom. We know food safety, we know foods, and so farmers can engage and be subs in your lunchroom. So think of ways that we can work with you that are creative solutions to make a better relationship and get those farmers in there so that we can understand each other better. Okay, and then I have a question, and I'm going to put Brent on the spot for this one. Sorry, Brent, hang on tight. But I just heard that they just passed the summer meal program, or excuse me, the meal program just got approved for the next year for free meals. What does that mean for you guys, and what does that mean for farmers?
What that means is I predict that most schools are probably, hold on. I have kids at home here too, so
That's
I
all right.
apologize if you hear them in the background. Hold on, I'm going to move.
We can hear you fine.
Okay, so when I think about that and I think about Red Wing, I actually think about higher meal counts and specifically breakfast, because what we really saw in Red Wing is that we had almost the same amount of students eating breakfast as we did lunch, which is awesome. I mean, because that's, as a food service dream or a director's dream, we've always wanted to see our breakfast participation greater than 30%, right? So, so we had really good participation in breakfast. I would say that realistically, what I saw this year was higher food costs and higher, paper supply. But because our reimbursement was so much higher, that for the first time, Red Wing, we did really well during this COVID pandemic. And I look forward to actually growing our program more and being able to buy more local for next year. So for us, I think it's just more, we're going to move more. And really what it means next year too, under the summer seamless option is you're going to go back to hitting all of the subgroups as well. So like before it was for COVID, we hit all the dark leafy greens, the orange, red-orange subgroups, the starches. We're reverting back to the national lunch and the breakfast program from a meal pattern standpoint. And that pattern actually has more food components than what we are under the summer food service program. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is I would expect our food service budgets to be up just because we have to offer more items in order to hit that meal pattern.
That's awesome to hear and super helpful. Does any other food service director want to talk on that? Maybe you have a different story to share, Christy or Jill. I guess I'm looking at the two of you. And it could, maybe your story is the same. You can.
Oh, go ahead, Jill.
Sorry. I was just gonna say I agree. Our breakfast numbers were way up as well, and I think everything Brent said was exactly how I foresee it going too.
Wabasha Kellogg's breakfast numbers were also up. I think one thing that was surprising, and I've heard from a lot of schools, is that we thought when the meals were all free that even more students would eat than did. Our numbers overall were down from last year considerably, and I know part of that is some students were distance learning or some students did an online academy or something like that, but still it's been surprising to talk to different schools and say, why isn't everybody eating these free meals? Or if you are distance learning at home, why are you not getting the meal bundles? Right now I only have 2 families that are doing that, and there's a lot more that are at home. So that was kind of surprising. So I think I'm looking forward to the different meal pattern. It might be a little tougher for us to do, but I think the students will enjoy that more next year. And we still have the benefit of the higher reimbursement rate, even though we're doing a different program next year. So that's good news.
Are you guys able to see with this poll? Can I just, I'm going to end this poll so you guys can see the results, share results, just so that you can see it. I'd love to see this. So all of you are doing summer lunch programs in the school gardens and greenhouses. This is the number one topic that you like to talk about, and then classroom connections. This is great. I'm going to stop sharing these results just so that you see that. And click download so it doesn't go away. Okay, desktop, save, sorry. It just gives me the option now, so I don't want it to go away. Okay. So what we want to do in the future is actually engage in this maybe once a month, and just have this conversation. And we'll have it very specific to some of those topics that you guys chose so that we can dive a little deeper. You don't need to hear from us. We want to hear from you. The reason that the Department of Agriculture is engaging in doing this and wanting to learn is that they really want to see if having a regional coordinator hear and listen and take the time to understand what's happening in the schools and build this network is a very helpful thing for you. You guys are going to guide this ship. You're showing us what you're interested in and helping us see ways that we can be creative in coming up with those solutions. One of the things I noticed is that that you guys liked on here was those connections. How can I help? And so some of you are principals and superintendents and ship providers and nurses. We have school nurses and all kinds of, so school staff. And that's awesome. So food service directors, I'm going to challenge you to the next call on one of the next conversations is thinking through ways that we can engage with you. I don't want to put more on your plate. We want to encourage support to happen in your school so that you feel supported not only by us, but by the network we're building within your community. And so think through what that can look like. Think through creative ways that we can help you. Email Brett, email myself, and bring those connections to us.
And there's one other component of the Parsnip, which is to Nikki's point, that farm to school has not used a lens of culturally appropriate and foods in the school system. And so I have a friend up in St. Paul who is Hmong. She's an organic gardener, and she just can't find food in her school that her children understand and that they know what it is and that they'll eat it. And it hasn't really made its way into the farm to school discussion yet. And so we're looking to possibly bring together a small group of Black, Indigenous, and people of color to help guide this farm to school effort and make sure that those foods, those culturally specific foods, are making it onto the plates. So keep that in your minds, and we're going to come back to it. It hasn't launched that part yet, but that is definitely in the works.
Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share? I want to give you guys one last opportunity, and then I respect your time because we're at the 1 hour mark in 2 minutes. And so I'm going to just stay silent and let you all say any piece of this and jump in. Awesome. Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time on a Tuesday evening to meet with us. And you can watch. I didn't want to say it in the first invite. Like, this is something that we're looking at doing on a monthly basis, but we do want to try and do this once a month for an hour shortly after school ends. I have talked to many of you to see if a Tuesday afternoon or evening would work best. And so I'm trying to respect that. Join us if you can, encourage others to join us. And thank you again for your time. We really appreciated this. Hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for all that you guys have done too.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank